All right, we are back, and I'm glad that you could join us today. If you are watching from your home or listening at work or whatever, we're going to do a lot of election analysis today, programming update. So, this channel, you might notice I've been doing a few less videos. I think I'm going to start doing a few more book reviews, but the fact is that there is some positive development relating to my written content, and I will probably be trying to share some of it at a certain point, although I'm not sure how much I want to mix the channel with my written content. So if you want to be, getting updates and stuff like that, you can find my email. In fact, I'll put the email maybe in the comments later. But the fact is, we have Mad Dodge Productions here. So thanks for joining. We also had Stormy earlier. I don't know if she's still around, but in any case, we have a lot of developments going on. I will say that my own live streams are probably going to be more. There's going to be two eyes. They're going to be infrequent and also what was it? It sounded so smart earlier when I thought of it. They're going to be irregular and infrequent, basically. So I think a few months ago I tried to post a regular schedule. I don't think that schedule really makes any difference. So, because often I'll find that I don't really think that there's a ton to talk about very regularly. So, yeah, if you guys want to keep doing the Friday thing, I guess I could keep doing it once in a while, but the reality is that we're talking about right now a real problem with YouTube. I think this is the real problem here. So I know Mad Dodge probably disagrees on this because he only does live streams, so far as I know. Live streaming is kind of frustrating because you get into a topic and then you realize there's another detail you want to explore, and then you're screwing around for about 5 minutes until you can find something to put on the screen. And by then you've wasted a lot of time. So it's a double-edged sword. That's why I like doing produced videos a little more. It lets me curate the content first and then put it out. But then you upload a video and nobody sees it. The live streaming is useful because you have people that can draw in. They see it's live. They're like, oh yeah, I want to see this live. I want to see, because obviously you could see someone doing things live that you think are probably cutting edge or really new, or they're coming out right now, exclusive, whatever. I don't necessarily think that these live streams show the best content that I can give. That's why I prefer to do uploads. Um, Nick's radio. That's a good point too. The days do melt together indeed. But we are going to talk a little bit about the presidential race as it is right now. And of course, I do think I will do post-debate live streams when they happen. And that's fine because there's not that many debates yet. I think they will probably add some more as the election season heats up even more. Of course, there could be other things I could do. I used to do a lot of interviews, but to be quite honest, the kind of the desire to keep doing it hasn't really held on. So we have right now all these people who have qualified. We're going to move on to polling after that and how it's happening, and then some news about some of the candidates. And I don't know if you guys think that there's other topics that I used to cover that you still want to see either videos or live streams on. Feel free to put in the chat. I used to do a lot of stuff on Venezuela, but it's a little more difficult to get news from there because they've sort of turned it into a hellhole for journalism where you can get thrown in prison for nothing. And the Hong Kong stuff, I'm sure you guys see it everywhere, but I don't think I can add. There's certainly an issue sometimes where I realize yeah, I can comment on something. I can't necessarily add any more wisdom to a discussion. So I don't know. It's a strange time, but I can tell you that the other work I've been doing, which has been a personal project related to researching current events, journalism, there is some yield there, and it's a little bit more important at the moment. With all, I mean, it's great to hear from you guys and talk to you, but that's the way it is. Anyway, we'll get into this. I'm getting off of the programming notification. So you have the current crop of people who have supposedly qualified for the debates are Joe Biden, Peter Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Beto O'Rourke, Amy Klobuchar, Andrew Yang, Julian Castro, and Tulsi Gabbard. And the ones that have not qualified yet is a pretty pathetic bunch themselves. You have Tom Steyer, Kirsten Gillibrand, John Hickenlooper, who I don't think is going to qualify at all, and then Marianne Williamson, who I think eventually might qualify, Jay Inslee, Michael Bennett, Steve Bullock, Seth Moulton, who's not going to go anywhere, Tim Ryan, ultimate loser, John Delaney, Bill de Blasio, Wayne Messam, and Joe Sestak, who, you know, all those people who I just mentioned who are here in the yellow, I don't know why they are running. I think that in many cases they are doing it in order to live off of the donor trough for a while, and that's about it. Maybe I'm cynical. I'm probably no more cynical than the rest of you. So let me see here. Any candidates who have qualified for the third debate also qualify for the fourth debate. So, so I guess Tulsi Gabbard might already qualify. I don't know. It's interesting. Tulsi Gabbard, I think, is, as of right now, the only candidate that I would consider voting for in the primary. The rest of them are complete and utter garbage, if I just may say. So the criteria are, as we've said, there are donor and polling. And in terms of donors, I think at this point you need 130,000 donors in order to get in. So there's these requirements here, and you actually have at least 2% in 4 different polls and 130,000 unique donors with at least 400 unique donors per state in at least 20 states. So that's kind of hard, but it's getting there. And I think if Gabbard can, first of all, Castro and Gabbard are both on the edge of qualifying. Some of these other people, I don't know if they are going to get in at all. Nobody knows what Tom Steyer's donor figures are. Gillibrand is going to have a hard time convincing people to donate to her after her atrocious performance last month. And then you have John Hickenlooper, I think is toast. We'll discuss him a little today. Williamson, certainly, I'm surprised that she hasn't qualified already. And Jay Inslee, let's see if there's any news on Jay Inslee. This is what I'm saying. I hate doing this during the middle of a live stream, but I have to. Here we go. So he's doing pretty bad. He's getting 0 supporters in latest New Hampshire primary poll. So we'll go through some of these. The first person I think we'll go through, Beto. So this is news now in El Paso. President Trump went to El Paso today in order to, I guess, meet with survivors from the recent shooting over there. And the media is reporting apparently that the shooting survivors refused to meet with him, and also that he bragged at the hospital. I don't find this. So let's watch this for a second. So.
It was a longer visit, but it was a very interesting visit, I have to tell you. Go ahead.
I would like to it is my humble honor to introduce to you the best medical staff in El Paso. They are fantastic and responded to all the victims that needed to be taken care of. The best professionals and people that you'll ever want to meet. Right here.
So I don't know if you know it, but because you've been pretty busy lately, right?
Yes.
But they're talking about you all over the world. The job you've done is incredible, and they're talking about you all over the world. And the doctor, what you've done is, I feel I know him. I've seen him now, and you did a fantastic job. But your whole group, and you know Senator Cornyn, the job you've done, and they're talking about it all over the world, and it's an honor to be with you. Look at this group of people. Can you believe this?
Good looking people. They're fantastic.
I was here 3 months ago. We made a speech, and we had a what was the name of the arena? That place was
Coliseum.
packed, right?
I was front row.
Right? The judges have respected
I was front
you.
row.
What was the name?
I was front row in there.
He was in the
Oh,
front
good.
row.
Come here, Mike. That was some crowd.
Thank you for all
And we
of
had
you
twice
do.
the number
Thank you.
outside. And then you had this crazy Beto. Beto had like 400 people in a parking lot. They said his crowd was wonderful.
Look at me.
But we had some.
Oh, look at that.
Whoa! Oh, wow! Look at that! Look at that, Judge. You see that?
I was encouraging her. She
Don't tell it to the press because they won't even believe it. They only believe it on voting on the day of the vote. They say, "What happened? What happened?" I want to thank everybody. How do we get some kind of a picture here?
So look, I don't think it's the. I mean, if you go to the hospital, obviously it shouldn't be about you, but he wasn't really meeting them in front of the public. Somebody took some cell phone video, and it looked like he was just being social with the crowd, and then he dumped on Beto. But the fact is that Beto he's been exploiting this to his best ability as well. Okay, we can see, for example, he says Beto O'Rourke, Trump is a white supremacist. What else is here? Trump attacks local leaders as he visits two cities grieving from mass shootings. Well, the fact, like what happened in Ohio, I'm a little confused about, because from what I understood, is that you do have Sherrod Brown, who's our senator, and Mayor Nan Whaley of Dayton. I'm not from Dayton. I'm actually pretty far, but they didn't say anything necessarily negative about Trump, to my knowledge. So I'm not sure why Trump was so was so mad at them. Nor do I care, because honestly, fuck Sherrod Brown. But it's like, what the hell? They are using this against him, and then they get mad when he also. He trashes Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke is an idiot. The fact that he's trying to piggyback off of this is hilarious, because, I mean, what else does he have going for him? So we're going to look at polling right now, and we're going to focus first on Iowa. So we have the latest polls are not looking good for a number of people. First of all, you have to notice who are the people who are not appearing on the poll at all. So that would include Inslee, that would include de Blasio, that would include, let's say, I mean, Marianne Williamson isn't on it. Kirsten Gillibrand isn't on the Iowa polls. I don't see Tulsi Gabbard there either, to be honest with you. Actually, no, Gillibrand did make it. She's at 2% in Iowa. I don't know what possesses people in Iowa to select Kirsten Gillibrand as an option, because frankly, she's one of the least interesting candidates. But Gabbard doesn't have any pulse over there. You don't have Hickenlooper. You don't have any of these other people at the bottom of the list. I don't know if there's even, how's Andrew Yang doing there? He's only doing at 2% in the latest poll, and in previous polls he doesn't do much better either. So based on the polling, we're going to have a problem for these people. And I'm going to explain it this way, okay? And you guys can take it for what it's worth. Polling is only useful in two different ways, and it's very important to understand it. The first important thing about polling is that you can use it in order to gauge if there is any support. You can't accurately portray support as it truly is, unfortunately, because there's always an error in the sample size and the different ways that they select the respondents and the focus that they put on it in the demographic focus. So that doesn't necessarily help. But the way that it really helps is to get donors. If people can see that you have a good pulse, like Pete Buttigieg, he can at least recruit donors in order to fight against some of the other candidates that his donors will hate. And the people that are probably going to support Buttigieg are corporate Democrats. I think a lot of his progressive talk is really just that. It's talk. He's kind of this compromise candidate, sort of what Styx was saying Kirsten Gillibrand would be. Since the race has begun, Kirsten Gillibrand has really lost her mind, and Buttigieg has filled that spot to a certain extent. Other people that I think are not really going to be doing very well. So Castro has nothing in the latest poll, and he's going to be really struggling ahead of the next debate. And other people are also they're struggling right now. So you can see here, and we're just talking about Iowa for the moment. Bernie Sanders is in 4th place right now in the latest poll, and which I don't think is going to hold. And he's in 3rd place in general in Iowa. He's right, or actually no, he's in 4th place in the average. So in Iowa, which Bernie Sanders almost won in 2016, he is polling behind Kamala Harris, which I think will change. He is polling behind Elizabeth Warren, and he's polling behind Joe Biden. And my feeling is that a lot of the voters that were Harris voters that might leave because she's honestly doing pretty poorly in terms of her public image, they're going to end up voting for Elizabeth Warren, or they're going to at least answer the polls supporting Elizabeth Warren. I don't think that Bernie Sanders he's got to find support from other people. It's going to be tough sledding for the time being over there in terms of the polls, and that sort of matters for a lot of candidates in terms of donors. With Bernie Sanders, it's hard to tell. Of course, he has a lot of grassroots donors. I think in many cases, the polls poorly reflect on him when in reality he has more support. So we're just going to have to, use this for the time being. Unfortunately, they don't do enough polling very regularly in places like Iowa. They should be polling Iowa, I think, every couple weeks now. The last poll took place on the 18th of last month. So I would have expected at least one other poll since then. And instead, it should be a lot more frequent. I think right now they're not doing nearly as much of effort as they should be. New Hampshire, let's see how it's going. You have Biden in 1st place. You have Sanders edging out Elizabeth Warren for 2nd place. You have Harris in 3rd, and you have Buttigieg in 4th, and then you have Tulsi Gabbard at 2%, it's good for her. Look, I think that Tulsi Gabbard and some of the other fringe candidates, fringe meaning that they don't really have enough of a horse in the media. Anyone that the media doesn't really give attention to is a fringe candidate. I'm sorry to tell you. Until they can actually poll higher or win a primary or do very well in a primary, that's a standard that we have to set. It's not fair. I don't agree with it, but that's the way it is. And it's a problem. But like Kiana Rainey says in the chat, we have a lot of people struggling in the polls, including Beto in the latest poll in New Hampshire has 0%. That's pretty funny. So some of these people, I don't know what their plan is. By the way, if you get 1% in a primary, you don't get any delegates. So what exactly is the piece of the pie that you're trying to get? I think there's a number. How many delegates are there? There's 24 delegates in New Hampshire. So even if you divide them all proportionally, you're not going to give one delegate to a person with 1%. That roughly means that you'd be, for 2.5%, maybe you would get a delegate. Maybe. I don't even think that's the way the system works. There's probably some sort of lower threshold, like 6% or 10% in order to get delegates. So yeah, that's going to be pretty funny watching these people trying to justify their continued candidacies. Then you have here Tim Ryan getting owned by Neil Cavuto. I said, by the way, I actually recorded a video to upload yesterday of this, and then so many things happened during the day that I figured I would re-record it today, and then I finally said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do a live stream." So this is like my 5th time watching this because it was so awesome. Watching him just
Now, many of your
eat himself
colleagues, and
alive.
maybe you and I haven't tracked what you said today, Congressman, have blamed the president and his tone. But as I think you know, over multiple administrations with various party loyalties and approaches, these shootings have continued. And I'm wondering if that is a constructive idea to all but say it's the president inciting this type of behavior. Do you think that's fair?
I believe that the president is most certainly creating an environment here where people like this kid in El Paso drive 10 hours to go kill, quote unquote, kill Mexicans, kill people of color. And when you look at what the president has done, Neil, around Charlottesville, saying both good people on both sides, you know, saying go back to your country, people cheering at the rally, send her back, race baiting on multiple occasions, that is creating an environment where maybe not the average person is going to do something stupid, but the lowest common denominator most certainly is,
but
and that's the kind of kid that gets in a truck.
When we had this guy who attacked Republicans on a baseball field, Capley was a big loyalist to Bernie Sanders, loved Bernie Sanders. That would be like blaming Bernie Sanders for that attack. Is that fair?
But Bernie Sanders is not creating, and look, I got my disagreements with Bernie Sanders, as you saw on the debate stage last week. But let me just say, Bernie Sanders is not creating an environment of intolerance.
Let me stop there. I think that Bernie Sanders certainly is creating an environment of intolerance. It's just a different type than what the media really cares about. He's a class warfare person. He's a person who believes that people who live a certain lifestyle, you know, an affluent lifestyle, that they're able to earn more. Okay? He believes that those people are immoral and that they must be punished for it. And that's where I think that a lot of the Democrats have a disconnect with certain parts of the country, not just the rich, by the way.
He's not othering people. He's not dismissing people because of the color of their skin.
But doesn't intolerance work two ways? If you're saying the president is intolerant, Congressman, then you being intolerant of almost anything he says or does kind of fits the same bill, doesn't it?
Neil, come on. Like, let's be honest here. You hear the president. You know what he says. He race baits. This guy.
Neil, come on. I'm trying to attack the president here, and you're kind of questioning my reasoning.
Alienates people and tries to separate us based on color. And when he uses words like invasion, and then this kid writes in his manifest, invasion, when the president spends so much time othering people and making them feel not included in the United States, or they're somehow not.
By the way, I'm seeing in some social media, especially on Twitter, that people are casting a lot of doubt as to whether that really was the El Paso shooters' manifesto or not.
A part of this country for some reason, or to go back to where they came from, and then thousands of people are cheering it at his rally, and he says nothing. You're going to create an environment where the lowest common denominator in that society gets a gun and shoots people.
I hear where you're coming from, but sir, the fact of the matter is, even Nancy Pelosi says he used racist words. She doesn't think he's a racist. You're proclaiming he is.
I don't think there's any question he is, and I don't say that lightly. I'm not proud of it. His behavior, going back to the issues in
you're blaming
New York
his language
with the
on
Central
these shootings.
Park
That's going an extra mile, don't you think?
I am saying he has created an environment in the United States that is absolutely toxic.
So what was the environment under Barack Obama when we had shootings? What was the environment under Bill Clinton when we had Columbine? What was the environment under both President Bushes when we had shootings? I mean, you pick and choose, I guess, your enemies, but you don't like Donald Trump.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not picking and choosing, Neil. I'm not picking and choosing, because President Obama and or George Bush or anyone else was not creating an environment around the color of people's skin. That's what I'm talking about. And President Trump, when you look at his tweets, it's always Maxine Waters, or it's LeBron James, or it's some other black person or person of color,
he provided
or
the atmosphere
Omar,
for
or
these shootings.
Ro
No. You're
So this is something funny that they want to criticize Trump for insulting celebrities and politicians that are black or minority politicians or celebrities like LeBron James. But those people criticize him, and I would say this. The problem with the media and the problem with people who support this line of thinking is that they're saying the president should not have the right to respond to celebrities who criticize him. The president is essentially, it's not that he's above criticism. It's that he's above being allowed to respond to criticism. That's the real problem. Responding to criticism isn't the same thing as censoring it. And it's not the same as being a racist and things like that. You need to remember that the president has the First Amendment just like his opponents do.
saying his language provided the opportunity for these shootings, and I'm just thinking that you might be making a leap here that isn't fair or accurate.
Well, you're seeing an uptick in crimes around white nationalism, Neil. Let's have this honest discussion in the United States so we can fix the problem.
I've seen school shootings. Tragically, I've seen shootings in New Zealand and in Australia. You're right, far more in this country. But the fact of the matter is, for many of you and your colleagues to jump and cite the president, I'm no apologist for the president, as regular viewers of this show could attest. But come on, that might be a leap too far. For you, too.
Neil, I'm not taking a leap. I'm telling it like it is. I'm telling you exactly how I see it. And I'm sorry it's the case, and I'm sorry it may cut against somebody's political beliefs, and they may agree with Trump's political philosophy, which is fine. If there is one, it's fine. I'm talking about him creating an environment of intolerance in the United States. Instead of out of many one, he divides us. And you know it, and everybody else who pays a little bit of a
He divides us. That's what Shia LaBeouf was supposed to stop with the "He will not divide us" flag. Remember that? It wasn't supposed to be that way.
Attention understands that this is his MO. This is what he does, and it, like I said, it's not everybody who goes to his rallies or everybody.
You can seize
but
on
you're talking about
view.
Politics.
You are talking about
You're
politics.
talking about
you just
politics,
did.
Neil.
I don't have any
no,
interest
I'm not.
in politics.
I am not talking about politics. I'm not. There are school shootings. You can't blame school shootings on somebody that.
Tim Ryan would never have been on national TV if he was not a presidential candidate. Okay, if this had happened, let's say, why are they not interviewing someone who is, for example, some random Ohio representative who's not running for Congress? There's not that many that are Democrats. I think we have more Republicans than we have. For example, my congresswoman is not on national TV because she's not running for president. And I think she's not on national TV because she likes to hide from the media because she doesn't do anything for the people here. She's in the Black Caucus. She used to chair the Black Caucus, but she's never presented any bills. And she's essentially the Democratic Party's overlord over here, over the entire area, mostly because she's part of the black community. If the truth was that these people are here to represent their constituents, you would see them speak out on more of the issues that are relevant to the people here in Northern Ohio, here, over, I don't know where you guys live, maybe if you live in Pennsylvania or in Wisconsin or whatever. I know a lot of you people live on the West Coast, which is fine. We have an issue here where it's more convenient for these people to go on TV and condemn something that happens based on who they think influenced it, which is, in this case, the president, than it is to actually talk about things that they can do as members of Congress. And I see Kiana commented that they forget the racist policies that they made to hurt Black Americans. That's pretty much the book that I reviewed, and I released the review earlier today on this channel, which is it's John McWhorter's Losing the Race, which is that there was for a long time there were policies like affirmative action that were apparently very necessary in order to help Black Americans get back to the same economic level as white people. But now it doesn't look like they're really helping. In fact, in many cases, they seem to be driving the standards down, right? So you think you're helping somebody by giving them a spot in a college or giving them an executive job, but if they're not prepared, if the individual is not prepared, it doesn't matter what color they are, you're actually lowering the standard of the institution you're making them a part of. And that's really the problem with this type of racial politics in the United States. I think that there are a lot of people out there who are qualified, who are ambitious, who don't want to go along with this type of racist program where you tell people, oh, there needs to be a certain percentage of deaf people. There needs to be a certain percentage of gay people. There needs to be a certain percentage of Mexicans. There can't be too many Asians. There can't be too many white people. There can't be this amount of Jews. There's not enough Jews. There's not enough Russians. There's too many Russians. The Russians are ruining everything. That's the language of the liberal elite right now. Okay, some Republicans buy into it too, right? So it's really sad that this has become the type of conversation we're having, and people are running for president on it.
You just blame them on the President of the United States, Congressman. You just blame the President of the United States.
I was talking about President Obama and others.
Sir, I wish you had more time. I just think you've gone one step too far.
Neil,
enough with the politics, Congressman. No one is interested with the politics. We'll have more.
All right, so I think Tim Ryan self-owned over there, and we're seeing actually people are predicting that these two politicians from Colorado are probably going to drop out at a certain point. Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper, neither of them is registering any sort of support in the polls. And in fact, I think if it got to the point where Colorado would be relevant in the primary, which I think it isn't, it just wouldn't. They would probably lose too. I think Colorado would probably vote for either Bernie or for Elizabeth Warren or Joe Biden. It says here that Hickenlooper has paid San Francisco firm Do Big Things $327,500 through his campaign committee, and another $337,250 through Giddy Up PAC, the leadership PAC he formed prior to his presidential run last year. Like a handful of other firms, Do Big Things has taken advantage of the crowded 2020 Democratic presidential race by attracting multiple clients at the same time that the firm has helped Hickenlooper touch people's hearts and change people's minds. It's done nearly $1.4 million worth of business with his better-funded primary rival, New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. So if you're seeing, this is what's so stupid, that you have multiple candidates using the same consultants. It's just so, it's ridiculous. And paying them. So do you think that Do Big Things is going to do as much and do as many big things for John Hickenlooper as they are for Cory Booker if he's paying only about a quarter of the money? It's not gonna happen. So yeah, this is pathetic. I don't know why these people are running. I think that in many cases they figure, oh, if I don't try to run for president, my entire career has been a failure. Well, that says something about what you've done. Let me see here. For some reason, maybe I'm missing some of your chat messages because hold on. Oh, okay, here we go. The Democrats are only fighting for immigrants and illegal immigrants. Yeah, I missed that. I didn't see any of this. All right. Yeah, you guys hit the like button. Make sure to hit it. In any case, So Hickenlooper is trying to pivot now, maybe pivot. I think it's going to happen, and run for Senate against Cory Gardner, who is the Republican incumbent over there. So if that happens, I think the Republicans are going to have to go very hard and say, look, this guy is a failed presidential candidate. He just doesn't know when to go home because, Colorado, if Cory Gardner's seat falls to the Democrats, that will mean Colorado is effectively a blue state. All of the statewide officials in Colorado will be Democrats if Hickenlooper or another Democrat can get elected in 2020, and that would be pretty difficult for the Republicans to take. Look, there has to be, I believe, some sort of effort to shore up whatever candidates are out there in 2020 in the Senate, because that is a big, 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 prize for past 2020. Whoever wins, remember, they're going to be able to appoint probably 2 Supreme Court justices because Ginsburg is getting really up there in years, having health problems, and Stephen Breyer, who's another Supreme Court justice. He's over 80 years old as well. So it says here, de Blasio is also failing to register in a poll. I actually read, this was from the New York Times. This is how hated he is. So let me see if I can bring it up. So de Blasio. So this is a hilarious profile of Bill de Blasio. And this is something, I don't know, maybe you guys should send it to Hard Bastard. I'll put the link in the description. I know some of you watch this show, so I'll put it right here. So Bill de Blasio, there was this piece put into the New York Times, and it says here that he was so, he hates his job. He hates living in New York. He barely goes anywhere there. He doesn't even dine out. People would think, I'm not from New York. I've only been to New York 3 times, if you can believe it. Yeah, that kind of makes me a hick. But think about it this way. If you lived in New York, wouldn't you be wanting to take advantage of whatever it has, right? Wouldn't you want people to, if you lived in New York, you have all the restaurants you would want if you can afford it. You have a lot of different attractions there, movies, theaters, all sorts of events, clubbing. You have lots of music venues over there. You have two NBA teams, right? You have 2 hockey teams. You have to go to New Jersey to watch your shitty football teams, but, I mean, let's put that to the side. You have, what else do they have? You have the Yankees and the Mets. The Mets are actually doing pretty well right now. You have all of this stuff to do there. What does Bill de Blasio do? Nothing. What's his favorite baseball team? The Red Sox. It's hilarious. It's hilarious that he has any level of support. And how has he been able to win an election there? He's just pathetic. It says one of his chief advisors went to work for Buttigieg before the election, and there are people who basically, they've been running away from him who used to be his supporters back in the day. And then there's this line that I saw that was really one of the funniest things I've ever heard, which is, hold on, I gotta find it. It is hilarious. It's hilarious that anybody would say this. Okay, so J. Philip Thompson, a deputy mayor under de Blasio who wrote a book about black mayors and who is black himself, told me de Blasio's political challenges ring familiar, comparing past accounts of Dinkins' penchant for tennis and high fashion to media skepticism about de Blasio's interest in the job. So this was, this was in response to questions about whether de Blasio even cares about being mayor and stuff like that. And, they're referring to David Dinkins, who is, as of today, he's the only black person to be mayor of New York. So then it says, Thompson suggested each had been manufactured to depict the men as lightweights. When I put this theory to Dinkins, New York's only black mayor, he sounded unconvinced. I don't think so, he told me. If you hold office, you're going to have some criticisms of that sort. I told Thompson I had spoken to many close associates of de Blasio's who did question his affection for the role. Goldstein, who was monitoring the interview, cut in. So Goldstein is one of these other aides that de Blasio had, still has, and it says, disliking the job and being lazy are two different things, she said. I think what we read about is like he's asleep on his couch, he's at Gracie doing God knows what. I think that is a trope that is often used for African Americans. It took a moment to absorb this official City Hall position. The mayor is definitely not lazy. Disliking the job is another matter. Goldstein later clarified that she does believe that the mayor enjoys his job. So what they're trying to say is that, A, the mayor might not like his job, but he's not lazy. And if you call him lazy, you're basically using a stereotype for black people against him. And I'd just like to remind you that this is Bill de Blasio. Does he look black to you? Because I don't think so. So, yeah, I would send that to the hard bastard so he can read that. In fact, I'll highlight it. It's a long piece, and I read through it just because, my attention span is pretty shot lately. I've been trying to restore it, and this was a good a good thing to use because it was so goofy that you can't help but not read through the whole thing. 1 second. So, I think I might have actually sent it to the hard bastard already. So, yeah. We got Kaimu here. This month is Democratic politics. Dem top aides to Boston mayor found guilty of extortion. Wow. Is that that guy Kevin whatever? What's the mayor of Boston's name? I keep forgetting. Florida Democratic chairman, corruption, 45 years. Democratic Philly sheriff, defrauding citizens, 5 years. Democratic mayor of Rhode Island, embezzlement, resigned, 4.5 years of probation. Mississippi Democratic presidential candidate, felony criminal charges, disqualified to sentence pending. Democratic mayor of Scranton, Pennsylvania, corruption, 35 years, sentencing November 14th. Democratic mayor of Allentown, Pennsylvania, 15 years. Yeah, it's the same. This was the same issue. I remember before the 2016 election, I believe Corrine Brown from Florida, she was a congresswoman from the Jacksonville area, and she was sentenced to 10 years in prison for stealing from her own charity, and it barely got any headlines. And maybe it was afterward. I think it was before the 2016 election. So we also have this issue with Joaquin Castro, who released all that information about who these, and even so he released the names of, or at least the Twitter accounts of certain businesses that were donating to the Trump campaign, and even Maggie Haberman, who is by no means a conservative, claimed that this is dangerous by any campaign. And so did Yashar Ali, who I think is a bit of a centrist. And that really says something, that Julian Castro's brother was willing to throw this crazy Hail Mary, all in the name of taking advantage of the El Paso shooting in order to shame San Antonio area businesses from donating to Trump. And it turns out that some of these people actually donate to him too. Him and his brother. So Joaquin Castro is Julian Castro's brother, and he's a representative from from Texas, from San Antonio. And it turns out some of these people don't. This is a repeat, by the way, of what happened with Chick-fil-A, or it wasn't Chick-fil-A. It might have been In-N-Out Burger. I think In-N-Out Burger back in 2018, they donated to Republican candidates in the gubernatorial election in California, and the Democrats posted this, and they tried to shame it and it ended up making a ton of money for In-N-Out Burger, even though In-N-Out Burger had also donated to one of them, to the Democrats too. Who's Kip Simpson? Sorry, I don't know who he is. What else is going on here? New York Democratic Mayor. Democratic Mayor of Reading, Pennsylvania. 8 years. Democratic judge convicted of abuse of power, dragged out of court and put in jail. Sentence pending. I think I did hear about that one. That might have been in Cincinnati, though. Are you sure it was in Pennsylvania? New York Democratic Mayor Mount Vernon pleads guilty of corruption and grand larceny. Sentence pending. Nevada Democratic Senator guilty of corruption. Sentence pending. Indiana Democrat Muncie corruption. Sentence pending. Acting DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan under federal investigation over leaks. That might have been due to those ICE raids, right? Democratic Texas judge guilty of bribery and obstruction. So, yeah, it says here, I mean, these people also gave to both of the Castro brothers and including the presidential campaign of the Castro brothers. And it says here, another 3 individuals. So the congressman's approach left many of the San Antonio area Trump donors on the list who gave to the Castro brothers angered and hurt. It's just amazing to me that he would do that, said William Grahe, a philanthropist and former CEO of Valero Energy, who donated $5,000 to Joaquin Castro's congressional campaign in 2013, covering the primary and general elections. So Castro took money from an oil company. That's basically what happened, right? Because Valero, we have Valero here, is an oil company. Then he's calling me a racist because I'm supporting Trump. I mean, this is just ridiculous, said Gray, who noted he started a $100 million homeless campus project that mostly serves Hispanic individuals. There's a lot of things you don't like about the president and his tweeting, but here Castro is doing the same thing with his tweeting. Joaquin Castro did not respond to a request for comment through the presidential campaign of his brother, who, according to the Real Clear Politics polling average, languishes in the Democratic field with 1% support. Edward Steves, owner of a manufacturing firm that he says is the oldest company in San Antonio, told the Washington Examiner that he once hosted a fundraiser at his house that raised over $300,000 for Julian Castro's mayoral campaign. But Joaquin's tweet and follow-up statements chastising local Trump donors may backfire for his own re-election races, Steve said. He's probably got 44 people that are going to contribute heavily to whoever might run against him in the primaries, Steve said. Donald Koerkendall, president of San Antonio Commercial Real Estate Company, shared concern about his family's safety and wondered what the Castro brothers hoped to gain by the Twitter outing of Trump donors. Were his intentions to incite people to picket Bill Miller's barbecue or to come to Don Koerkendall's house, assault my wife, make nasty statements? Koerkendall said that in the wake of the tweet, his lawyer reminded him that he once donated to Julian Castro's mayoral campaign. Life is short, and this kind of silliness is not good for anybody, especially with the climate we have right now with 2 mass shootings in a weekend. Kuykendall said, "There's just no reason to highlight individuals and their companies as being some kind of, I don't even want to know what he thinks we are, bad guys because we support Republicans. I'm just hopeful that none of this gets serious and that my grandchildren and children will not be intimidated by this stuff," Kuykendall said. Wayne Harwell, who gave $1,000 to Joaquin Castro in 2011, then a state representative who would win his House seat the next year, emphasized his enduring financial support for Trump. "I sure will not give to Castro anymore," he said. "Trump has helped our country have economic prosperity. I support his efforts, although I may not support each word. I like the words, the results of his efforts for America." So this this is a big own goal. A big own goal for the Castro campaign, because some of the people who donate to campaigns try to play both sides, and he's going to be excluded, and so will his brother. His brother, who probably got donations from some of these people, will never get a donation from them again. And I think it might cause a bit of backlash from people who might have been donating to him anyway. Last thing here, it says apparently that Kamala Harris has 1% of the black vote. 1%. And it should be lower than that, but it's still pretty low. Kamala Harris, who falsely claims to be an African American while coming from a Jamaican-born father and Indian mother whose ancestry does not trace back to African slavery, has fallen from her self-proclaimed top-tier candidate status to the bottom of the 2020 Democratic presidential primary candidate bucket, dropping to just 1% of support from black Democrats. The former California Attorney General quickly climbed to frontrunner status after taking what many called a cheap shot at former Vice President Joe Biden in the first debate, implying his racist motivation for not supporting school busing, of which she was a part decades ago as a child, but she has now fallen to a new low after getting a taste of her own debt medicine dished out by Representative Tulsi Gabbard of Hawaii in the second debate last week when she called out Harris' spotty record on criminal justice. So yeah, this is just desserts. I hope that she gets just destroyed when the primary itself comes out. She's not going to drop out anytime soon. I think she's way too well funded, and there's too many pokers in the fire for her. and you can take that expression any way you want. But yeah, I hate Kamala Harris. I think she's one of the worst politicians in the country. What else is here? TYT wrote a hit piece against not Jay Inslee, Pete Buttigieg here, published today. It's pretty clear that they don't like him. I think that Pete Buttigieg is bad, but I don't understand why they're focused so singularly on him. So it's going to be interesting. I wonder if he's going to strike back. Pete Buttigieg doesn't really seem like the type of person who is good at going on the attack against other Democrats, but we'll have to see. I think that he's been in this sort of duel with the Democratic progressive wing for a while, and at a certain point, it has to bubble to the surface, and we'll see when. And effectively, when they're targeting him, he serves as a shield for Joe Biden, because the more they have to focus on other moderates besides Joe Biden, the stronger the Biden gets, because Joe Biden doesn't necessarily have to run against Buttigieg or Kamala Harris. I think their support will, if they don't do very well in the early primaries, it will probably peter out and flow into Biden's column or into Warren's column. I think those are the only two candidates that are going to be gaining votes from other candidates for the time being. I could be wrong. Some of them might go to Bernie. You never know. It's tough to know with this polling, but yeah, TYT helped to write this. It was actually the managing editor of TYT contributed to it. So I haven't read through it, but I guess fine. If they want to do investigative journalism, which TYT is supposed to be doing, I don't care. But it's clear that they're standing on the side of a certain candidate, and they can't claim to be really in any way looking out for the interests of the progressive movement as a whole when they try to cut some of these people down exclusively because they happen to be not quite to TYT's standards. And then even Washington State is waking up to the fact that their own governor is getting 0% in New Hampshire. He's a failure. Jay Inslee, the climate change pawn. It says Governor Jay Inslee's long shot bid for the U.S. presidency got some more sobering news this week. A new poll of likely Democratic voters in the early primary state of New Hampshire found that not a single respondent listed Inslee as their top primary choice for president. He wasn't alone. 6 other Democratic candidates also failed to get a single supporter. They were New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, former Alaska Senator Mike Gravel, Miramar, Florida Mayor Wayne Messam, Massachusetts Representative Seth Moulton, Ohio Representative Tim Ryan, and former Pennsylvania Representative Joe Sestak. So this is important for a couple reasons. 3 of the people that are on that list, or maybe it's Joe Sestak, Messam, Gravel, and Moulton didn't even appear on the debate stage. So that's the company that's being kept. Those people are done. They're a toast. I don't know why Seth Moulton is still running. I don't know how Tim Ryan got on the debate stage to begin with. It says here, but Inslee could take some comfort in knowing that at least a few people, 0.3%, said he was their second choice for president. So 0.3% of people said that Jay Inslee was their second choice for the spot. The poll by the Boston Globe and Suffolk University showed that former Vice President Joe Biden so far retains his frontrunner status among Democrats, with 21.4% saying he was their top choice. Next up was Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont with 16.8%, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts with 13.6%, Senator Kamala Harris of California at 8%, and South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg with 5.8%. Anyway, let's not repeat what we already talked about. That's about it. I hope you guys continue to follow. I know, like I said at the beginning, so the video making and the live streaming is not as much of an emphasis right now. I'm more focused on doing some writing projects and might be doing more book reviews for the time being than necessarily current events. But, every once in a while, I think I have something, a different perspective to offer. So, keep watching the channel, keep liking the videos, keep following me on all the other social media. You can find me on Gab at Starscream85. You can find me on Minds on Twitter, as well as on BitChute and Subscribestar if you want to donate. All of those, my screen name is Chef Leopard. And Stormy, release of the crabs. I'll talk to you guys later.